then before the move-in, that is the crucial point. That's what you're paying me to do, to make sure you're safe. Because we send this out before they move in, and we document it, and we make them sign for that to say that they've done that. Because I know that if I've got to evict a tenant, that I've only got one shot at it at court. And I also know, because I deal with the solicitors, guys, trust me, if you've not been there, it's not funny anymore, and these people, you can't evict them unless you've got everything in place. Keep record for 2 years. If you want to serve Section 21, then proof must be given that you provided the tenant with a gas safe certificate prior to them moving in, or you cannot evict them. That's your gas safe record, which I would imagine most of you are familiar with. EPCs, right, these have become important. Up to, from April this year, any house that was every house from April this year has to have an EPC rating, an Energy Performance Certificate rating of E or below. There are still, believe it or not, some F and Gs out there. Now, I've still got one or two landlords, because we started this over 18 months ago, knowing it was coming in April. I've still got landlords who haven't agreed to make the energy efficient changes to bring them up to an E. So then you might say, well, why come they can? Because they can't rent it. They're not allowed to rent it. It's against the law to rent it if it's not got an E or below. Now, what happens is, an E or A, B, C, D, E, or above, sorry, not below, above. So F and G is out of place. Now, what's got to happen is that so they're okay at the moment, those landlords are refusing because they don't want to spend the money to bring the properties up to rate and energy efficiency. But what happens is that when that tenant leaves, they can't re-let it. So the existing tenants that were already in pre the rule of April, are okay to stay in. Any after that, once that tenant leaves, then what I've got to say to, if they come to me and say, can you rent it, or what's your energy EPC certificate say, if it's F or G, I've got to say I can't do it for you, neither can you. Because you'll be opening yourself for civil penalties if you do. Right, the EPC's got to be available at viewings. You can't just turn up. So only landlords think they can just turn up. No, the EPC's got to be there, they've got to see it. It's the law, it's the rule. So EPC given to actual tenant, 1st of April, as I've just said, and from April 2020, it applies to all tenancies. So then it's going to be law that whether you've got one or not, whether you've got a tenant in or not, this rule is applying. Building insurance. Right, now this is interesting. Buildings insurance, again, you've got to have proper buildings insurance, and you're going to have to supply a copy to the council with your application. Now, your buildings insurance, we've got a lot of landlords out there that are accidental landlords. There's a lot of them who have moved home, thought, well, keep my house on, rent it out, and what are termed as accidental landlords. But what they've done is they've moved from their residential insurance, and they've just carried that on, and in most cases haven't told the lender. So what they've done is just rented it out, carried on, not told the lender. They're going to want to see proper landlord buildings insurance. Proper landlord buildings. So if any of you guys out there have got residential insurance, you're going to have to get it. You're going to have to get it changed and pretty damn quick. Now the other thing is, as Carl pointed out to me, is that these people are going to notify anybody that has an interest in the property. And who might that be? Who else has got an interest in the property? The mortgage company. Because the mortgage company have to know that you're renting the property out. And I'm telling you now, a lot don't. But the council are going to let them know that you are renting that property out. So if you haven't told the mortgage company that you've got, and they're giving you permission to rent, that could be a bit tricky as well. It's grabbing people's attention, isn't it? Right, now temporary accommodation for tenants, sorry. That's something that's been knocked on the head. Again, another common sense view from the council. Thank God that's not included. You don't have to include that in the buildings insurance. So temporary accommodation for that, but you do have to have public liability cover still. Right to reside. Passport, so we need to know your right to reside, so you're going to have to furnish me with a passport. And there's various things on there, that other things if you haven't got a passport that we can accept. Licence holder, landlord, training, if done within the last 3 years, if any of you have been on a course, landlord course in the last 3 years, you can just send that certificate in. If you haven't, then you've got to do one within 12 months. So that's good news. So you've got a bit of time to not worry about. And as I say, I'll be rolling that out to my guys to let you know what the hell's going on. It's a one-day accreditation course by Dash or MPro. I'm going to probably be looking at doing them through MPO because I know them out there. They're good guys and they're good courses. Right, emergency lighting, fire alarm testing, fire risk assessment, building regulations. They only apply if they're applicable in your property. So if you've got a property that's large enough to have sort of emergency lighting, you need a certificate for it, then that will only apply then. How to apply, that's the website to apply to. Now, the application progress doesn't open until the 1st of July. This is a laugh. As I stand here today, the council haven't even got their application process ready, guys. The website is not ready. I've been emailing Anton Menzies to say, mate, I need to see this. We've got a lot of planning to do. We need to see what's going on. And he's going, it's not ready yet. It's in the stage of production and testing. What date is it? It's crazy. The speed they're bringing this in is unbelievable. They're giving us no time. And what's the pound and pinch of snuff that it's going to crash? So don't go on there 1st of July, because I think it'd be crazy to do so. This is some of the snapshots I've got from the application process, having said that, not all of them. I think it was at one stage going to be a 22-page process, 19-page process, which I think they've knocked on the head, which is crazy. There's a lot of work involved. Required to upload a number of certificates and documents. What certificates, documents will I need to submit? Plans for each floor. Now that's something else. Thank God, yesterday we got information that they've knocked on the head. Then they were talking about room sizes. So my understanding is from yesterday, I'm sure that they've, thank you God, said we don't need the room sizes. But they didn't want a plan. They did want a plan, they didn't want a plan, then they want room sizes. Now we're told we don't want room sizes. Thank you. Because you can imagine you have to visit every property and measure every room in the house. So they don't want that now. Evidence of landlord insurance for property we discussed, basic disclosure, criminal. Right, now what's going to happen is you're going to have to tell them how many families live in the household. Now, what's happening is that, examples of families is family of mum, stepdad, 3 children, and one of the children partners equals 1 household, step-parents. A couple and their child, 1 household. A couple and their friend is 2 households. 5 unrelated people is 5 households. And you're going to have to be careful on this because the rules of HMOs are changing in October. Additional licensing rules are changing in October, where it stands now is that you've got to have 3 floors. They're knocking that on the head. And what's the other rule on that, Carl?
It's 3 or more households typically.
3 or more households in there.
For it to be a HMO that is mandatory.
Yeah. HMO is mandatory. But 3 or more, so you've got 2 family, that's fine. 3 or more is going to become a HMO. Now, that's not in a specific area, that's throughout the country. Anything. So what we're saying is that the definition of HMO at the moment is 3 floors. So it's 2 floors now. So that's going to mean it's going to capture a lot of the houses. But if you've got a selective license, then that will have already applied. So anybody who's got a HMO out there at the moment, don't worry about it because selective licensing doesn't apply to you. If you've got a property as a HMO at the moment, selective licensing won't apply. So various other questions, as you can see, it's quite onerous, the application process, to get it right first time. And if you don't get it right first time, the council has stated that if they've got to come back to you for further information, they'll charge you a further £150 for messing them about. Further 150 quid. So,
HMO?
Housing multiple occupation.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you don't want to know about them if you haven't got one. Don't worry. Trust me. The licence holder's details. As you can see, evidence of proposed licence holders, right to reside in the UK, basic disclosure, fit and proper person, all the declarations at the end of it, and all the details of the room, bath, shower, wash hand basin. So, licence conditions: respond to repairs in a reasonable time. You've got to give them a contact number Monday to Friday 9 till 5, that's me. Out of hours, we've got to inform people of out of hours emergency numbers. Good state, we've got to keep that in good state of repair. Exterior in good state of repair, boundary walls from graffiti, gardens clean and tidy. You're now responsible for that. You're responsible for making sure that that happens. Free from significant hazards. HSSRS. Housing Health and Safety Rating System. This is being tested by the Housing Health and Safety Rating System. Now, the aim is to provide a reasonable, safe and healthy environment for the occupier and the visitor. It affects all properties, even owner-occupied. So basically, you've got a duty to look after people in all aspects of the health and safety of that property. Now, an inspection triggers licensing and complaints. Likelihood, most vulnerable possible occupier under 12 months. They're the people most likely to complain, people who've been there under 12 months in your property. It's very severe, and the total, they have what they call a category 1 or 2 hazard. So the council are basing this on a category 1 or 2 hazard. And when they come out, you see, like Carl says, the thing to avoid, if a tenant, and this is what I said to the council, I said, there isn't anything under selective licensing that that's not already applicable to the tenant who makes a complaint, i.e. the protector, because if they phone the council and the Environmental Health Office comes out to you, it's a nightmare. So we've had guys who tenants have moaned about some mould. I've said to the landlord, hey, it's 300 quid, you need to sort it out, whatever. Ignored me. Warned him, told him, wouldn't listen, and hey presto, the tenant moans to the council. OMG. The council come in, he has a look at the damn, assesses that, and he goes around the rest of the house, guys. Somebody was telling me earlier, a gentleman at the front, he had single sockets and even told him we've got to put double sockets in. They're a nightmare. These guys will look for anything, and they give you 28 days to sort it out. It's an absolute nightmare. So you cannot, trust me, let them in on an environmental health check. Get your repair done. Because it's very, 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 very serious if you let them in. They will. I've had guys with £10,000, £12,000 bills, and they've only moaned about a socket or moaned about an electrical problem or something like that. And they've gone in and done, and the landlord's going, oh, as I told you. These things just don't happen. You're warned about it, but they choose to take no notice. So these are the kind of things that they're looking for: damp, mould, excess heat, cold, entry by this. So the guy's got a list, and he goes through his list, and he'll go through the whole lot. He'll spend hours there just checking your property out. You don't want them in. Don't have them in. Do the jobs. Keep it up to date. It's far less money. Now, that's a shame. You can't see that very well.
Turn the lights out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know which one it would be. No, it's all right. I'll tell. Here we've got a door. Sorry, we've got a framework with no door. So that's a health and safety hazard. So we look at the risk here. You can't see it, but there's a door there opening onto the stairs. Another risk. There's no banister on the stairs. People have been fined. The guy I was reading about the other day fined £20,000 because his banister wasn't fit correctly on the stairs, and the banister came off and the tenant fell down the stairs. 20,000 quid, health and safety. Top hazards, main one is excess cold, falls. You know, we have them come round and they'll go around. We had a visit the other day on a property, a block of flats, but you're also responsible for what goes on around that flat. And it made the whole path took up, put down again, because it was uneven.
Sorry, it's probably just worth adding as well that it's a risk
based assessment, so it actually changes depending on who the occupier is. So if you look at the first one there, which I think you said it was cold hazard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you've got an elderly tenant, for example, over 65, or a child under 10, then basically that alone, if you've got, say, a sloping roof with not enough insulation, that can be a cold hazard. But if you had, say, a 40-year-old young professional living in there, it's not a cold hazard. So you wouldn't be forced to do anything. So it is, the HHSRS is quite complex and risk-based.
Yeah, it is very complex. When I look at it, I could cry. I look at it, and it really is a specialised thing to understand, and you know, and the right amount of writing on it to understand it. I get these HMO guys from the council talking to me, and I go, oh, you glaze over sometimes. And you know, we went on a block of 3 flats the other week with Diane, one of our ladies, and we're looking at the list of these HMO guys there. They're not humorous at all, unlike myself. They didn't have a sense of humour. And the guy stood there, and do you know what? He wouldn't smile. He hardly said hello. He could hardly say hello because he knows he's going to give you bad news. He knows because he's looking out for it. And these 3 flats are in the park. And I'm telling you now, oh my God, beautiful. And you'd look around and you think, what are you talking about? He must have come up with 16 jobs in one flat. 16 jobs in one flat. And it's like, and then he made all the 3 doors were here, 3 entrances were sort of in front of you, and he made every one of them change the locks. And what else did he do? He not just changed the lock, put special locks on, which cost about 250 quid a piece, and all sorts of other rules and regulations that he made us do. And he was really thorough. But these guys aren't humorous; they're serious people who aren't interested. They just see what's what, and they'll work it. Now they can enforce an improvement notice, which we say they give us sometimes. It's very rare because the landlords listen most of the time, but they can issue an improvement notice straight away, telling you you've got to do this. You've got 28 days, not 28 months, 28 days to sort all this out, and it can come to thousands. Trust me. Prohibition orders. They can issue prohibition orders. Hazardous awareness notice. Emergency remedial action, emergency prohibition, where they can stop you doing things, demolition, you can order demolition orders, clearance area, placement on. Now you're going to be placed on, there's now something called the rogue landlord list, which you can be placed on. And if you're placed on that, then they can get a banning order. The landlord and the letting agent can have a banning order. Now if I, as a letting agent, I've got a landlord who now won't accede to what I'm telling him and listen and do it right and work with me, I can get a banning order, which means I can't rent a property again. I can't rent a property for 2 years. You as a landlord going it on your own can get a banning order for the same thing. If you get it wrong, banning orders are now being issued and they can stop you renting. They can even take your house off you. I had one the other, I was telling earlier, I'd got a guy whose mother, 3 children, got a 10 or 12-year-old, something like that, and he was nuts. He'd threatened people with hammers in the street. They had a local shop. People had come to beat him up. But the mother had got 3 children. But this kid she couldn't do anything with. And this only happened a couple of months back. And the council wrote to me, going, "We're going to close down. We're going to evict her, and we're going to shutter the place up because your landlord's not acceding to anything." What happened there? I got a letter, same day the landlord got the letter, and the landlord goes, "What?" She rings me, going, "You're useless, what are you doing?" I says, "Hang on a minute." I says, "Nobody's told us about this. I didn't know." So I got onto the guy whose name was Hitler at the council, and he stands there, and he said to me, "I don't care, I'm going to close them down. You know, it's gone on too long, it's gone." I says, "How long? How long's it been?" Last summer this has been going on. I'm telling you, and this is his attitude on the phone. I've had enough. He's had enough. I've had enough, he says. "I'm going to slow it down. She's going to knows mayhem." I says, "Well, when did you last go out?" He says, "Well, first started last summer." I says, "And when did you tell me?" He went, "Oh, well, I must admit," he says, I was probably a failing on my part." These are his exact words. I said, "You're having a laugh, mate. You're having a laugh. Don't come here with all that." So I wrote to his boss. I got 2 people phoning me, and his boss wrote me a letter of apology. I said, "If you tell me about it, I can do something about it. The problem is if they tell you about it and you don't do anything about it. You're in a mess." Because why? They want to stuff you. Because remember, if you get fined now, they can keep the fine. The council can keep the fine. It's a civil matter now. They don't have to take you to court any longer. They used to fine you, take you to magistrates court, fine you, and have to pay the fine, go to the state. Now they can keep the fine. So it pays for themselves. They'll pay for their own departments.
Aren't they already doing that?
Say again?
Aren't they already doing that with the 35 million?
They want more than that. That'll be in excess of that, yeah. Yeah, they are keeping the 35 million, yeah.
I thought they were not allowed to make a profit.
No, they're not. But what they're saying is, they're not. But what they're saying is we just sat on 77 guys that we're going to pay for. It's paying for our costs. That's how they're putting it.
35 million pounds?
I estimate between 35 and 40 million they've got to raise.
That's another schemes that cost 35 million pounds to at least.
Exactly. But the council aren't interested. I mean, you say that to the council, they're not interested.
Just
Audited figures for it.
Is it on code?
I think it's on. Just to add to that,
You can actually see exactly how much it's going to cost. If you submit an FOI to the council, to Nottingham Council, by law, when they do a licensing scheme, they have a breakdown of the cost of each licence. And I think the way that they do this is, if you think about just the application phase alone, what they'll do is they'll have officer time and different officer gradings. So I see selective licence fees ranging from, I think it's £350 in Gainsborough. This is one of the highest, by the way, for a selective licence. And it's because they have different level officers doing the work. And you're quite right, the gentleman at the front said you can't use the selective licence fee for anything other than administering the scheme. And that's actually restricted to the administration and the number of inspections that they've put in the scheme. So that's where the total of however many million it is will come from.
Yes?
If we've got a tenant who's boiling reasons, how on earth are we supposed to deal with it?
Sorry, can you pass the mic to Clay? Can you sweat?
Well, yeah, you can see what's happening. He was saying
Sorry, yeah? It's not on JP.
Sorry, then aren't we going to do questions later?
Yeah, I'm gonna move to that.
Yeah? Yes?
Yes.
If we've got a tenant who's causing a public nuisance,
Yeah.
we can't evict him, how
Yeah.
are we supposed to deal with that? Why is that out?
Right. You have to evict them, basically. You have to give them warnings and everything. So as long as what you've got to do is demonstrate that you've been active and you've given them warnings and told them and etc. and threatened them with eviction, then eventually you do have to give them a Section 21 and evict. Yeah.
But
Guys, what will? Sorry,
yeah,
go on.
presumably that's on top of whatever the police or the council are doing as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're responsible. You've got to get rid of them. Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the day, yeah. Guys, what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish this off because I know you're all eager, and we'll get Carl involved. We'll ask a few questions at the end. Is that okay? Because I'm sure you've all got a lot of questions to do. So now, what we do, this is our inspection. We inspect every 6 months, and we send the guys an inspection report. I've got Debbie, bless her, who goes out there. Debbie, I think a lot of you will already have dealt with Debbie at our office. She's fantastic at what she does. She knows the properties inside out. And she inspects them, and we have to go. And I think, to be honest with you, I'm going to have to expand this checklist quite seriously, because there's other things that are being introduced all the time on it, and I'm going to have to get up to date and inspect it even further to protect it. But these inspections are very important. If you don't carry out these inspections, you can be in a lot of trouble, because they also highlight problems early. Like if anybody's growing a cannabis factory, we have a question on here saying, well, we're all rooms evidenced. Can you get in all rooms? Now, if we can't get in a room, red light comes up, Debbie's red light comes up. Oh, I can't do that because my sister's asleep or my granny's asleep or whatever. We once had a property in Bulwell, wasn't it, where the guy was a great tenant for 2 years. One day, she had an inspection, When she went for the next 6 months inspection, he'd gone, and he was always late with his rent, although he paid it, he was always a bit late. And then we went in, didn't we? Oh, God, the whole house had been converted into a cannabis factory. The whole house, the big semi-detached 4-bedroom house. And I went in the living room, and there was a panel as big as that window with tens and rows of electrical switches for plugs. And he'd tapped into the electric. And I went down in the cellar with all the electric in one, and he'd rewired everything and bypassed the main circuit, so nobody would see. The door, I walked in, and I immediately went into another. It blocked the door, the wall off, and there's another door inside a door. So it shut that door, opened that one because of all the lights. So the light had come out. There was a curtain and a door, so none of the lighting could be seen from outside. It's you've got to be careful who you let in these places. So that's going to be extended. Failure to comply with the notice. Now, there's unlimited fines if you don't comply with these notices, with repair notices that give you. Magistrate court is now a criminal offence, as Carl says, or up to £30,000 penalties can become. They can keep the penalty. They don't have to take you to court now. They can just issue you with that penalty. Fire safety, smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms. Now, people think at the moment, mistakenly, that you have to have a carbon monoxide alarm in your property. It's not true. Should I? Well, it's only if you've got the ability to have a solid fuel appliance within a room. Any room that has the ability to have like an open fire or anything like a log burning stove, anything like that, has to have a carbon monoxide alarm in there, involved. Suitable fire alarm system. Well, they've knocked that on the head. What you were going to have to do is put a fire alarm system in there to the mains wired. They've knocked that on the head now, thank God. And they go by the course guidance on fire safety. Furniture, if you furnish it, I don't furnish any of mine. Nothing's got a stick of furniture in. I don't want the responsibility. I don't want them moaning. It's broken. I don't want any of that. And security locks in working order. You were going to have to change your front door lock, the main exit door, for one of those where you don't have to use a key where you can get out. And we're all arguing, going, hang on a minute, I've got a 2-year-old can get out my front door. Seriously. They can open the door and get out. Well, you know, it doesn't I know they'll take a bit of fiddling with, but they're going to learn how to do that when they run straight out on the street. Don't be stupid. So thank God they've listened and that's not now a requirement. Window doors secured. What they're saying there, within 24 hours, if I get a tenant reporting I've got a smashed window or there's a door not secure, they've got to get it done within 24 hours. You cannot mess about because it's security. Because if the tenant complains and no, man, right, then you're in trouble. So it's got to be done.
People to come out in that then.
Well, you got to.
Well, you can't.
Well, you can because but you see, the thing is, what I get is that you say, I tell you what we get quite a bit of. If I'm honest with you, sometimes we have a problem with landlords not wanting to spend the money. And we can you get me 3 quotes? Can you get me this? I want to save 20 quid on that. Guys, it's not worth it. Because the guys we use are guys we've used for years. We know who they are. We can trust them. And we can get it, generally get it, we can get it. Remember, it's 24 hours from them notifying us. So, you know, if they've notified us at a reasonable period of time, generally we can get that done. I do accept what you're saying though. A lot of guys, if they aren't busy, but we've got access to other qualified guys. Now it says lock change if previous tenants don't return all keys. Is that a fact, Carl?
It's a common condition.
Common condition?
Yeah, that's in most licensing schemes.
Well, that appears it's going to be in the scheme. Now, to me, that's ludicrous. Because at the moment, when I have a tenant changeover, we've never, in 12 years of running Castlegate, we've never had anybody that's gone back in and nicked anything from the future tenant. We've never had that problem. But I do get some landlords saying to me, oh, right, well, I want to change the locks now for a new tenant. Well, that's the safe thing to do. But in actual reality I can tell you what actually happens is that's not an issue, not a problem. Now it says there, which is ludicrous, lock change of previous tenants don't return all keys. Well, don't be ridiculous, because the guys just make one up before they give you the bunch back.